always talk about things I love. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to share it with my friends and family. And so I signed up April 6th, 3 years ago. And it completely changed my life.
Everybody, it's your host, Amber here, MLM strategist and entrepreneur who has worked with thousands of network marketers and influencers and entrepreneurs in your space, helping to brand them, systemize them, and grow their downline on a global level. Creative director with AK Social House and your host of the Behind Her Boom podcast, providing you with proven, simple, and actionable steps to build your authority and your brand so you can stand out from those sideline sisters. Inspiring you with our special guest to think big and grow to 7 figures and beyond. Let's go. Hey everybody, it's your host Amber for another episode of the Behind Her Boom podcast. I have an amazing guest today, Kaila Gibson. She's going viral on social media. I say viral because you get a lot going on, Kaila, and I'm super excited to have her on the show today. She is a Saint artist, a mentor, a coach, but she is the queen when it comes to beauty tips, hair tips, fashion tips, and she makes it fun. I was just telling her I was getting kind of lost on her social media trying to just familiarize myself with the page, but she's funny, which that takes a lot. It takes a lot to go out there and actually put yourself out there, be vulnerable, have that sort of sense of humor and not be afraid. But you're crushing it. So thanks so much for being on the show, Kaila.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Perfect. Well, share with us a little bit about your journey into Saint. We do have our podcast, to really interview a lot of leaders in this space, a lot of people to really kind of share their story and their journey, especially for those who feel like maybe network marketing is not for them, or maybe they just haven't gotten lucky, but it's really not the luck of the draw. It's the work that you put into it. So when did you get involved in Saint, and kind of how does that path look for you?
Well, I've just kind of always dabbled in network marketing, but nothing super serious, more as a side hustle. I've always loved supporting like my network marketing friends. So, I mean, I think for the last 15 years, I have dabbled a little bit in it, just very, very not seriously. I was a teacher. So if anyone knows anything about teachers, we get paid nothing. And we come out with a lot of student loan debt. So it was always kind of nice just to have that a little bit extra money. But I had my son, he's almost 4. So I had him almost 4 years ago. And man, if anyone has had a baby before, you just know you kind of lose yourself, especially in that first year. And I've always been a big makeup girl. So I was actually the tomboy that wore all the sports stuff, but then had a full face of makeup on. I'd be out there playing football with the boys and I would have the full face of makeup on. So I've kind of had this two different personality. Yeah. Yeah. And so, putting on makeup has always made me feel really good, not because I necessarily felt like I needed it, although I did kind of feel that way at the time. But it just made me feel good. And I just wasn't able to get ready with a 20-minute makeup routine anymore. And actually I was dealing with a lot of that, anxiety, a lot of the clutter and overwhelm, all that kind of thing, was really making me feel stressed out. And so I would see my makeup counter just scattered with things, and it would take me almost all day just to go back and do a little bit of my makeup. And so I had actually been watching women use Saint for 3 years, and I was super snobby about it. I was like, ew, creams, no way. Because I'm also
a silent watcher, 3 years, not 3 months, 3 years.
Yeah, literally 3 years. It takes me a while to commit to stuff sometimes, especially when I'm kind of already in my routine. And so I was like, you know what? These girls are getting ready in 3 to 5 minutes. I've got to try something. And so I tried it, and I was literally nursing my baby while using one hand to put my makeup on. And I was getting ready in 3 to 5 minutes. And I just knew after this month, I was like, okay, I always talk about things I love. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to share it with my friends and family. And so I signed up April 6th, 3 years ago. And it completely changed my life. Wow. On accident.
Okay, so tell me this, Kaila, before you joined Saint, did you have a social following? Because you've got, a couple 100,000 followers now. And I always go into, okay, they got the following, but do they have the engagement? Do they have the but you're blowing up there. So what happened? What was your turning point? Once you had joined and you kind of dabbled in, did you just start doing tutorials and just sharing tips about the makeup, or?
Yeah. So I've always kind of done makeup tips. Teaching is my heart and soul. I always have had the teacher heart, the servant heart. And so, I would get on social media and do reels because it was so fun for me. I had my baby during COVID. So I would like this, figuring out how to do reels was really fun for me.
Right.
I didn't think of it as exposure at first. It was, like I said, it was just kind of a very fun, lackadaisical, I'm going to share situation. And so I was doing reels, but I was taking my palette when we were able to go back to work. I was taking my palette to work and doing it in my coworkers, classroom and, during our preps. I was doing Facebook classes to teach how to use the makeup, and I was making my friends and family buy it. Like, you have to try it out. So I was doing that, and I was going live on my social media because it was fun for me. It was truly fun. And it was about 6 months in, I was like, oh, there is money in helping others. Holy
Right.
moly, I can do both. And so it was 6 months in that I really started to see a change. I didn't have a single follower on Facebook. I think I had maybe 400 followers on Instagram, and I didn't even have a TikTok at the time. I refused
Yeah.
to have TikTok at the time because I didn't want to get sucked into it. So that's how I started, with little micro account.
Micro account. But I think the important part of it is the first 6 months, you were just having fun. A lot of people join something because they see leaders, or they make six figures. Okay, what do I do? And that's the headspace,
Yep,
the mind space that they get into.
yep,
But I think when you get
yep,
into something where you're having fun, but you're realizing that you're, building up confidence, and you're helping people, making an impact, even if it's makeup, it is impacting. It's helping moms, get ready in 5 minutes and actually put a face on, and not, look crappy going out the door. So there's so many things, but you looked at all those as like a fun, like, this is exciting. And now, because you're doing that, that's what you're leading with, all that energy. Now you're seeing, oh, hold on, there's dollars at the end of all
yeah,
of this, right?
yeah,
Okay, so then that was about 6 months in. You're heavy into saying, you're doing all the artistry, but now when I look at your social media, you've got fashion on there, you're doing hair. I mean, if you're traveling, she's got the outfits, all that jam. So
yeah.
how do you kind of get into all of those things? Because now it's like a one-stop shop. You go and you just get totally mesmerized by outfits and hair and makeup, and then I'm like, I need to go shopping.
Yeah, yeah, I know. It's really bad. My husband's getting mad at all these boxes I'm accumulating. So, okay, well, to back that up, the fact that I'm showing up on social media with my lower abdomen, the extra belly fat that is really hard to get rid of, that 6 months in, like, going back to actually say it, when I was that 6 months in and I realized, like, oh, I could make money, then I was like, I actually had this very, very, very deep why as to why I wanted Saint to work for me, and I get emotional every time I talk about it. But I was focused on this why, and what I actually started doing was, I started, instead of focusing on what I was doing for my customers and my followers, I was like, okay, now I need to be like these big dog Saint artists. So I tried being like these other girls for like a little bit. Like, I would tone down my jewelry. I didn't wear bright colors. I was trying to be all like minimalist, and then there came a point where I was like, wait a second, this is exhausting. And if I ever meet anybody in person, I don't want to keep up that. Like, I'm wild. I am wild. I say what's on my mind, sort of. I have energy. I'm too much for people sometimes, and I know that. And I was finally like, you know what? I'm going to show up as who I am. So I remembered the reel slash TikTok, because it took off both on Facebook and on TikTok. I was like, you know what? I'm just posting this video. And it was me. I had broken nails. I didn't have lashes on. I think I had like missing lashes. My hair was like 8 days dirty. I had a hat on. My son was in the back. My skin looked like garbage. And I held on to that reel, and I just got ready in the car, and I held on to that reel for a couple days, and I was finally like, you know what? I'm going to post it. And it blew up. And it was because finally I showed up as me. I didn't show up as this only aesthetic person, which, if that's who people are, that's fine, but that is not me. Like, I'm looking in the back, I'm like, I have a kettlebell back there, I have so much stuff over here. And I think something that really resonated with people, that people were really excited to see someone who was just themselves and relatable. And so this journey now over the last 2.5 years is, I just started showing up as, like, I have this fine hair that is so obnoxious. Who else has fine hair that's obnoxious and needs tutorials? Who else has, this belly pooch that is so hard to style sometimes. And so I just wanted to show up for the woman who felt alone. And that's where my fashion came from. That's where my hair stuff came from. That's where my skincare. So that's kind of how my social media has transformed over the last 2.5 years, is knowing that people need to see themselves in someone else.
Yeah.
Like I wished I saw.
Real and raw. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's Amber here, creative director with AK Social House, coming to you in a quick break in between this awesome podcast. Wanted to ask you a quick question. If you're in the network marketing space and you are struggling to grow your business on a global level and you are lacking the brand that needs to help you set yourself apart from your sideline sisters, and you are struggling or don't even have a system in place to automate your follow-up to give you back time so that you can have that ultimate time freedom, make sure that you click on the link somewhere in this podcast and book a free demo call with myself or one of our strategists. AK Social House has worked with hundreds of network marketers just like you, and we have worked with some of the top influencers in your space. So book a free demo and find out exactly why top income earners are coming to AK Social House to create the hybrid system to help them grow and scale at a global level. Okay, back to you, Amber, and back to this awesome podcast. I talk about a lot where you really get caught up in the comparison game, whether it's comparison aesthetically or business wise.
Totally.
I'm actually never on social media, because if I go on, even before I want to create content, I'll just get lost in the scroll. So I've mostly messed up my algorithm to golden doodles. I want one, I'm not allowed to have one yet. So now my whole algorithm is that and the Kardashians. I'm like, that's fine. They're not my competitors.
Yes. Exactly.
I don't know if that's, helping me or not. It's probably not, but because I don't want to go into that mindset of, oh, if they're better than me or they're there, all this comparison, because it can drain you. And then you go out and end up not showing up to be yourself. And I used to go out and look at others and create similar content, or say, okay, that's a great piece of content, and I want to create something similar. But then sometimes it would just come off I don't know, it just doesn't sound right to me. And I'm kind of real and raw. I might throw a little cuss word or whatnot, because it just comes out. Sometimes in my mind, I want to drop other accents. I'm like, well, you can't do that. People will think that, you're just you're not, you're being racist or something. It's an accent in my mind. I want to let them out. I just want to be me. But people get caught up in all of that social and just being present in a certain way that they think that, society wants to see them. So I love that you're being real and raw. The belly pooch is real. I've had 2 kids and a C-section, and I spent 6 months with a personal trainer. I thought the personal trainer is the way to go. And I dished out. I'm the gym's not helping, the running, all this stuff. My husband runs 10 miles a day. He's like, just come run with me. I'm like, I can't run a damn mile, so that's not going to help. So we spent all this money on the trainer to come in at 5 a.m. And then my husband's like, what are you doing? He's like, I think you're gaining more weight. You're blowing up and you're paying all this money for the train. I'm like, shut up. It's because I had a donut addiction. So I was like, I just want to eat a donut. And I thought, if I'm working out, I'm going to go and eat my donut. Sometimes I have 2 donuts in a day with my latte. Anyway, I scrapped the trainer, and now I'm hitting Orange Theory. And I realized it's a whole energy thing. You can't just work out and then expect everything to flow. And it kind of goes the same with social media. You can't just show up when you want to and expect your whole business to blow up. You got to be consistent.
Absolutely.
Right. So you've been in this game now for 3 years. Are you consistently showing up? Is that your, is your phone your business card? I'm there. I create my content daily, or do you give it a break and be like, I don't know what to post anymore?
I don't break often. It has been a journey also of boundaries. But the nice thing is I actually got to leave teaching officially. And so this is my full-time job now. Yeah. And so now I can get off the phone at night. But I mean, it was sacrifice. And so many people think, the luck. No, I mean, this minute my son went to bed, I was working until I went to sleep. I would wake up at 5 a.m. and work. I would work on my lunch breaks. And so when people try and say oh, it's luck. No, I just knew that there was a bigger picture, and I knew I had to see beyond the today watching my episode of Friends or whatever. But it is my kind of my lifeline, but I have been trying to create boundaries, but I am pretty consistent. I'm going to Mexico in a couple weeks. I'm going to try very hard to not be on my phone very much.
But there'll be so much content. You'll have to. It's like a
Yes, for posting later. So much content.
yes, yeah, exactly. So Saint is, that's amazing that Saint's allowed you to retire from your teaching, and that is,
Yeah.
what you do full time. And I've talked to a lot of Saint leaders. I mean, I work with so many different network marketers, but Saint, I love the compensation plan. I love how you guys can build teams, or you can just focus on yourself. So
Yeah.
what do you do? Do you focus more on the product side and the customers and the tutorials, or do you build a team as well and you're focusing on helping them grow? Because teaching is kind of your background, so like the mentoring, the coaching, and helping a team, does that just come natural to you?
Um, so yeah, so back to the comparison. Well, when I first started, I did tell my leader, I was like, I have zero desire to build a team. Nope, not doing it. And then there was something in me that was like, wow, if this could change my life, like it is not like I do not get to gatekeep this opportunity from anyone else that wants to potentially change theirs. And I'm sorry, but $100 extra a month is life changing in this time, right? It
Yeah.
really, really is. Having an extra tank of gas, having some extra groceries. And so I was like, that is not what I get to do. I don't get to gatekeep this. And so I did actually start to build a team. I do have a very large team. So I do lead them, and then I do, focus on sales. So I do both. But I did go into that comparison game of a leader, because my leader leads completely different than I do. And she is fantastic. And I look up to her so much, but that it just wasn't how I led. And
Right.
she was really like, you get to hone into like your creative genius in your leadership. And my leadership is truly, I just love my girls. I love my artists. And I think loving people and the desire to help people is really what my superpower is. And so instead of thinking I need to have X, Y, and Z all the time for my team, I think it's okay that I just like love my artists,
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's great. And that's true. There's so many different ways. And I think some people come in and then they get caught up and they're like, oh wait, my upline does this, this, and this, and it feels uncomfortable. Or my upline does it this way. And then sometimes they just kind of shut down and think, well, I can't build. I'm not doing it that way. I don't know what else. But this is an
Yeah.
opportunity to be your own self, to be an entrepreneur without that big, price tag of growing and scaling a business, right? You get your makeup and your product pack and you just get going. So yeah, I always think that network marketing is an opportunity for these amazing women to grow into like leaders and coaches. And they're literally like almost like a coach without going to like coaching school, and they're able
Yeah.
to really have an impact, right? So I think that's amazing. What would you tell somebody, Kaila, that's like brand new, especially in Saint, and they're just kind of getting familiar with the product? So is that the first step, is get out there, get a palette and start doing tutorials? Or is there sort of like an onboarding process way of kind of easing into it? What do you say to the newbies that are starting?
Messy action is better action than nothing, in my opinion. I have had people say like, well, I need to know more about the makeup. You don't need to know anything about the makeup. You just got to get out there and try and change people's lives. And I think for so long, especially after the whole COVID thing, that so many people are still trying to grow only on social media. But really, my business was built on Facebook classes, on in-person, like talking to people, having true relationships. That's where I was starting. And those were all my crock pot things I was doing. I was doing the Instapot. I was doing the Instapot things, which is creating the relationships, having the classes. And that crock pot simmering stuff was me creating social media. And now, obviously, I do a lot of that. But at the end of the day, the heart of everything you're doing is creating those relationships. So talking to people, solving problems, going and getting the makeup on people's faces, hosting Facebook classes, those are your true heart of your business. That's what's going to build your business. And just about anyone that is a top seller at Saint can tell you that that is also how they started.
Yeah, just getting out there and putting it. I think some people kind of get wrapped up in I'm not selling, I don't have anybody else. Who do I find? I've talked to every family member and friend that I know. Now what? What's my next step? So,
Yeah.
what do you do, or what do you tell your downline or your teams who've already kind of tapped into like their hot and their warm market, their friends, their family, and things like that? Are they focusing more on social media? And do you tell them like, go out and DM and create connections that way, or just, like and follow, or how do you make those new connections to get all those new people to follow you and to love on your content?
Yeah. So I've told my girls, I'm like, take your palette to work. I have literally done my own makeup in an airport restaurant, and then people will come up and ask me. So having the product, being the product of your product is number one. Number two, we can't just expect people to come and talk to us. We have to go make the first move. And when I say first move, I'm not saying like we're gonna go over to Sally and say, hey, do you want to try this makeup? But let's go get to know Sally. Does she have a German Shepherd named Bobby? Okay, go start talking about her German Shepherd. Go comment on her kids. Go ask where she got her dress. People want to know that you care about them first before they're ever going to care about a product of yours.
Yeah.
So I do tell my girls they need to go make connections with other people. Some of my girls have vendor events. They go and do vendor events. That's how that they get to network and expand that. Ask for referrals. Ask their customers who are tried and true customers to host a Facebook class for them. Things like that. Some of my girls also will get on kind of their hometown Facebook pages and ask if people can come over to do a makeover so they can build their portfolio. So things like that are really powerful.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually a nice idea. Just anything to give somebody like a freebie or a free guide or something that they're not asking for anything in return.
Yeah.
I think, I think that's a great way. And I think people need to slow down and realize that it's building the like and trust. That's what takes the most time, but that's the vital piece of of growing and scaling your business. So
Exactly.
it's been a couple of years. You have a daughter or son?
I have a son. Yeah, I have a 3-year-old, and then I have a stepson who's 10.
And 10. Okay. So now he's growing out of that toddler mode. What is going on now for Kaila for the next few years? Like, where do you see this path leading you with Saint and with everything else that's going on in your world?
Yeah, I was kind of talking to my husband about that, and
Like,
I
what's
don't
next?
know.
What's next level?
Yeah, well, like, what do I do? What do I do now? I think right now, continuing what I'm doing, I have had some partnerships recently, which was cool. I just worked with It Cosmetics, which was really, really fun.
Wow.
So I think having some bigger brand partnerships, just like my young girl heart, that just like makes me soar. I think doing stuff like that, but continuing to show up for my followers and the people who trust me, I will absolutely do that. We have talked about investing. We have some property over here that we would love to kind of build some duplexes on and invest in kind of a non-content creation way. But I'm just really loving what I'm doing right now. This is my first whole year not teaching or not having multiple jobs at one point at one time. So I'm just really enjoying. I love what I do. So I can't say like, this is what I'm gonna do next year. Like this is what I'm doing. I don't know if I'm gonna do anything different.
I know, like, does it feel like a job? Like, okay, it's, it's 1 o'clock. I need to go on, people are waiting. I need to post something. Or does it just feel like, okay, like, let's go and shoot some more makeup. Like, it's fun. Like, it's almost like a hobby that you get paid to do and everybody loves watching, right?
Yeah. I was trying, it was really funny. I got really giddy. I was sitting in my bed doing a brain dump list, and I just started kind of giggling. And I'm like, this is my life. I'm brain dumping on ways to help women with their makeup right now. My like freaking passion. I get to go and this is my job. I do feel like sometimes, if a couple hours have gone by, I'm like, oh, I got to show up. But I feel like I'm showing up for my best friends. That's kind of how it feels. Yeah.
Which is amazing. Well,
Yeah.
I love everything that you're doing, Kaila, and I will continue to watch and follow and get hooked onto your journey. And if anybody is not following Kaila Gibson, where are you most there? Are you Instagram, TikTok? Like, are you everywhere, or where's sort of your home that they would find you?
I am everywhere. Facebook and Instagram. And Instagram's like pretty much my hub though. That's where I do stories. I go live there a lot. I do have like Facebook groups and areas that I serve my customers, but Instagram's kind of my wheelhouse right now. It does change because social media is crazy. We never know, but
Yeah,
yeah.
never know what's going to happen. Well, I will make sure to put Kaila's. What's your Instagram handle? At Kaila.
It's at Kaila.r.Gibson.
So we'll make sure to put it in our contacts so that people can reach out to you. Make sure to take a quiz. That's the lifeline right there of Saint Artist, is to go and get color matched and be like, what do you mean color match? It's makeup. It's a couple of shades. You got to get color matched because it's incredible what it could do, right? And then make the switch to this creamy. Every time I get on a call with a Saint Artist, their face is glowing. I'm like, that's why. It's the makeup. Like seriously, there's no lie, there's no trick. They can't all look like that. It's, you know, they can't be all like that. It's the freaking palette. So go and get some.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's true.
amazing, right? There's nothing else to say about it. Well, I appreciate you coming on here, and I can't wait to just continue to follow your journey and see what else the next few years brings you. But for right now, it is hair, it is fashion, it is all things makeup. So she is your go-to girl. If you were planning a trip and you're like, well, I don't know what to wear, she's got some really fun fashion reels out there too. So I appreciate you coming on, Kaila. And to all of you guys, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Behind Her Boom podcast. And we'll see you on the next one.